Hello, children. How are you? I am sure that you might have completed the questions I had given from the fourth chapter of Vistas. That is on the face of it. On the face of it is the fourth chapter of second book of literature, that is in course fourth chapter. And now I am going to start the fifth chapter. The title of the chapter is Evans tries an O level. And the writer of this chapter is Colin Dexter. Colindexter. Colin Dexter. Evans tries an O level. At first, I would like to provide you the introduction of the chapter. Evans tries an O level is a play dealing with crime and punishment. James Roderick Evans, the protagonist, is a jailbird. He is quite a pleasant sort of chap. Chap means person. An amusing person who is good at imitations. He could imitate others' dialogues, others' behavior, others' facial expression. He is not a violent sort of person, but just a congenital kleptomaniac. Congenital, CONGENI, congenital, GENITAL. Kleptomaniac, KLEPTOMANIAC. He is a clever planner and has already escaped from prison 3 times. Now he is taking O-level examination in German on Tuesday, 8th June. All precautions have been made to see that the O-level German examination is in prison arranged for the prisoner. Evans does not provide him a means to escape. Means they had planned well so that the prisoner, what was the name of the prisoner? Evans, could not escape from the prison. All precautions have been made to see that the O-level German examination in prison arranged for the prisoner Evans does not provide him a means, MEANS, to escape, escape from the Oxford prison. As we go through the play, when we study the play properly, we find that the criminals are one step ahead of the jail authorities. Criminals think one step more than the authorities, so they escape from the prison. Evans makes elaborate arrangements, ELABORAT, elaborate arrangements, and waits, WAITS, waits patiently, PATIENTLY, waits patiently from September to June to execute, EXECUTE, to execute his plan to escape. The revelations fill us with surprise. Who has the last laugh? The governor or Evans? Who has the last laugh? The governor or Evans? When we go through the story, we will get the answer of this question. Who has the last laugh? The governor or the Evans? There is suspense all over the story, so listen the story very carefully. In early March, this is a summary of the story, the play. In early March, the secretary of the examination board received a telephonic request from the governor of the Oxford prison to create an examination center in jail for one candidate named Evans. He started night classes in O level German last September. He was the only one in the class. The secretary made other routine inquiries and promised to send all the forms and stuff, the forms to be filled by the examinee and other things required during the examination. The cell of Evans was turned into the examination room. Evans was to attend the examination in the cell where he was kept in the jail. A parson, P-A-R-S-O-N, from St. Mary Max was to work as invigilator. P-A-R-S-O-N, parson. Invigilator, I-N-V-I-G-I-L-A-T-O. The invigilator means the teacher who observes the students during examination. The governor did not tell the secretary that he wants the break. It should be written between single inverted comma. He wants the break. He was given this title. He wants the break had already escaped from prison 3 times. He had tried 3 times earlier before he came to this prison, and he was successful in escaping from there. He would have done so from Oxford prison if there had not been unrest in the examination security establishments up north. He would have done so from Oxford prison if there had not been unrest in the maximum security establishments up north. Then what happened? The governor of Oxford prison took personal interest to see that Evans got no chance. Evans got no chance to escape. The governor took his personal interest to make all the arrangements so that Evans could not escape from the prison. One day prior to the examination, that is on Monday, 7th June, Evans' German teacher shook him by the hand at 8:30 p.m. and wished him good luck. They met in the heavily guarded recreational block just across from D Wing. They met in the heavily, H-E-A-V-I-L, heavily guarded, full security, G-U-A-R-D-D, guarded, recreational, R-E-C-R-E-A-T-I-O-N-A-L, recreational block, just across from D Wing. The person who was wishing him good luck was also one of his friends. At 8:30 now, what happens? The story proceeds. At 8:30 the following morning, Tuesday, 8th June, Evans had 2 visitors. Who were they? Mr. Jackson, the senior prison officer on D Wing, and Mr. Stephens, S-T-E-P-H-E-N-S, Stephens, surly looking man, surly, you can call it surly, S-U-R-L-Y, surly looking man, only recently recruited to the profession. He was a new person who was employed for that particular job. recruited, recruited, recruited to the profession, profession, recruited to the profession. Okay, Mr. Jackson mockingly addressed Evans as Einstein. Mr. Jackson, Jackson, mockingly, he was cutting jokes. Mockingly, mockingly addressed, addressed, addressed Evans as Einstein. Einstein. Evans' face was unshaven. He was having long beard. Unshaven, Unshven, unshaven, and he requested Mr. Jackson to let him shave himself. Jackson instructed Stephens to make sure that he took his razor out of the cell after he had shaved. Mr. Jackson told Evans that he had got half an hour to smarten himself, means to dress up nicely, to shave himself and change his uniform and attend the exam in a proper way. He asked Evans to take off that filthy looking hat. Evans replied that it had brought him luck in life and requested to be allowed to keep it on during the examination. At 8:45 the same morning, the Reverend Stuart McLeary, Reverend R-E-V-E-R-E and Reverend Stuart, S-T-U-A-R-T, Stuart McLeary, M-C-L-E-E-R-Y, left his bachelor flat in Broad Street and stepped, S-T-E-P-P-E-D, stepped out briskly, B-R-I-S-K-L-Y, briskly towards Carfax, C-A-R-F-A-X, Carfax. The temperature was considerably below normal. The temperature, T-E-M-P-R-A-T-U-R, temperature. A long black overcoat and a shallow crowned clerical hat provided welcome protection from the steady drizzle, S-T-E-A-D, steady drizzle, D-R-I-Z-Z-L-E, which spattered, S-P-A-T-T-E-R-E-D, spattered the thick lenses of the spectacles, S-P-E-C-T-A-C-L-E-S. In his right hand, he was carrying a small brown suitcase. In his right hand, he was carrying a small brown suitcase which contained all that he would need for his morning duties, yet kept everything that was required for his duties during invigilation. The 2-hour examination, the duration of examination was 2 hours, was scheduled to start at 9:15. The examination was to start at 9:15 a.m. 2 small square tables were set opposite each other. 2 hard chairs were placed in front of the tables. Jackson told Evans that the governor himself was going to listen in. Jackson would be watching him like a hawk, very careful eyes, H-A-W-K. Hawk is a bird which is very careful, the eyesight is very strong. Watching him like a hawk, H-A-W-K. He asked Evans to keep his nose clean. Evans nodded, N-O-D-D-E-D, nodded. He had his number 2 handkerchief Handkerchief, Handker, handkerchief, but pronounced handkerchief. D silent. Handkerchief, lying ready on the bunk. Bunk. Just before leaving his cell, Jackson wished Evans good luck. Jackson wished Evans good luck. Good luck. Then what happened? In the little lodge, just inside the prison's main gates, the Reverend S. McLeary signed SIGNED, signed his name neatly in the visitor's book. From there he walked side by side with a silent prison officer across the exercise yard, YARD, to D wing. Here he was greeted by Mr. Jackson. The wing's heavy outer door was unlocked, means opened, and locked behind them. When they entered, it was again locked. The same was done to the heavy inner door. McLeary was now to be looked after by Stephens. Jackson murmured, spoke something. Jackson murmured, if he had got the razor, if he had taken the razor back from Evans or not. Had got the razor? Stephens nodded, yes. McLeary followed Stephens to the cell where Evans was kept. Stephens opened the peephole. There is a peephole at the door to see inside the prison, to see the conditions of the prisoners inside. Stephens opened the peephole and found Evans completely engrossed, ENGROSSED, in a textbook of elementary German grammar. Engrossed means he was engaged in reading, studying. In the textbook of elementary, ELEMENTARY, German grammar. Stephens took the key from its ring and the cell lock opened. It was 9:10 a.m. The governor instructed Jackson to tell Evans of the temporary little precaution. German instructed Jackson to tell Evans of the temporary, temporary little precaution. He had to take some care. The governor thought that Evans might try to take advantage of McLeary. The governor thought that Evans might try to take advantage of McLeary. Evans had been got rid. Get rid means to recover from. Got rid of any potential weapon. Evans had been got rid of any potential weapon that could help him to escape. But what about innocent McLeary? He might bring a jackknife. Evans might hold him a hostage, HOSTAG, hostage, with it. The governor phoned Jackson. The governor phoned Jackson, who lightly frisked, frisked McLeary's clothes. Then he searched the contents of the suitcase. He was puzzled to find a semi-inflated rubber ring. There was a rubber ring something was kept inside. McLeary explained that he suffered from hemorrhoids. It is a disease when he sat down for a long time. Hemorrhoids is a disease. McLeary explained that he was having certain problems, so for that he had kept that inflated rubber ring. Then he found a paper knife at the bottom of the case. Very politely he took it away. The examination started a bit late. The governor heard the voices of the invigilator and the examinee. EXAMINEE, examinee, examiner, examination. The person who attends the examination is examinee, and who takes examination is examiner. It was now 9:20 a.m. Evans objected to the presence of Stephens as it disturbed his concentration. Evans said that this Mr. Stephens is standing here, so my concentration is blocked. I want that he should be away from here. The governor ordered Jackson to get Stephens out of that cell. Then the examination began at 9:25, 5 minutes late again. There was a great calm, complete silence. CALM, calm. At 9:40 a.m., the examination board rang through, THROUGH. An assistant secretary informed the governor that there was a correction slip which the dealing hand and had forgotten to place in the examination package. Means there was certain paper which had not been kept with the things required for examination. For that there was a late call. The governor put him straight through Mr. Jackson in D wing. Meanwhile, he checked whether the phone call was fake, farji, FAKE, fake, or some signal or secret message. He was doubtful about that call. I am repeating. Meanwhile, the governor put him straight through Mr. Jackson in D wing. Meanwhile, he checked whether the phone call was fake or some signal or secret message. He dialed, DIALLED, he dialed the number of the examination board, but heard only the staccato, staccato blips of a line engaged. When we call someone, if the person is engaged with someone else, then we get information that the number you have dialed is talking to someone else, that is busy, so please call after some moments, after some time. That staccato bleeps, STACCATO, staccato bleeps. 2 minutes later, the governor heard some whispered communication. Some people were talking, whispering. Whispered means talk softly, so that others who are just sitting nearby could not listen. 2 minutes later, the governor heard some whispered communications in the cell. McLeary was dictating the correction. There was some mistake in the question paper. It was being corrected by McLeary. The governor had taken German in the sixth form, SIXTH, sixth form. He remembered all about the agreements of adjectives. Agreements, AGREEMENTS, agreements of adjectives. Then he received a phone. Then he received a phone. Who was at the phone? Then he received a phone from the magistrate's court. They needed a prison van and a couple of prison officers for a remand case. They needed a prison van in which the prisoner could be carried, taken from one place to another. Wanted a prison van and a couple means two, of prison officers for a remand case. For the first quarter of an hour, Stephens had dutifully peered through. Stephens had dutifully peered, P-E-E-R-E-D, through the peephole at intervals of 1 minute or so. And after that, every 2 minutes, he was observing through the peepholes to observe the examinee. At 10:45 a.m., everything was still all right. Evans with his pen between his lips. He had inserted his pen in his lips, thinking about, sat staring straight in front of him, as if he was thinking about something serious. Towards the door, seeking some inspiration from somewhere. Opposite him sat McLeary. His hair was amateur, A-M-A-T-E-U-R-I-S-H-L-Y, amateurly clipped, pretty, close to the scalp, S-C-A-L-F, close to the scalp. He was having long hair. I am repeating this paragraph again. Listen it carefully. For the first quarter of an hour, Stephens had dutifully peered through the peephole at intervals. After 1 minute or 2 minutes, he came and looked inside what the examinee was doing, whether he was writing something or doing something different. Intervals are 1 minute or 2, and after that every 2 minutes. At 10:45 a.m., everything was still all right. Evans, with his pen between his lips, sat staring. He was having his pen between his lips and thinking seriously about certain things. In front of him, towards the door, seeking some inspiration from somewhere. When some questions you are asking, you are thinking about answer of any question during exam, you are not getting the correct answer, you think, you look at the ceilings, sometimes left, sometimes right, to get the answer or to get some stimuli that could remind you the correct answer. His hair was amateurishly clipped. Opposite him sat McLeary. His hair was amateurishly clipped, pretty closely to the scalp. And what happened? At 10:50 a.m. At 10:50 a.m., the receiver made a short, sharp sound. Receiver. There was a phone call. RECEIVER. The receiver made a short, sharp sound. The governor realized that he had almost forgotten Evans for a few minutes. Forgotten. Evans was asking if he could put a blanket round his shoulders. Evans was asking if he could put a blanket around his shoulders. as it was a bit chilly, he was feeling cold inside. He asked that he wanted to have a blanket to cover his body with to relieve himself from the chill atmosphere inside. It was a bit chilly there. McLeary told Evans to be quick about it. At 10:51 a.m., Stephens was surprised to see a grey blanket draped draped around Evans' shoulders. He frowned, means became very angry. F-R-O-W-N-E-D, frown. F-R-O-W-N-E-D, frowned. He frowned slightly, S-L-I-G-H-T-L-Y. He looked at the examinee more closely. At 11:20 a.m., the receiver once more disturbed the silence of the governor's office. Again there was a phone, there was a call at 11:20 a.m. McLeary informed Evans that only 5 minutes remained. 5 minutes remained. It was a warning call. Examination was almost over now, but something still gnawed, G-N-A-W-E-D, gnawed away quietly in the governor's mind. Something was moving, just he pinching him. The governor's mind, something still gnawed away quietly in the governor's mind. He reached for the phone once again. He went to verify whether it was a fake call or something different. At 11:20 a.m., Jackson shouted along the corridor to Stephens. Corridor, C-O-R-R-I-D-O-R, corridor to Stephens. The governor wanted to speak with him. Stephens picked up the phone and listened. Stephens picked up the phone and listened to the rapidly spoken orders. Stephens himself was to accompany McLeary to the main prison gates. He was to make absolutely sure that the door was locked on Evans after McLeary had left the cell. I am repeating this stanza, you should be careful. At 11:22 a.m., Jackson shouted along the corridor to Stephens, C-O-R-R-I-D-O-R, corridor to Stephens. The governor wanted to speak with him. Stephens picked up the phone and listened to the rapidly spoken orders. Stephens himself was to accompany McLeary to the main prison gates. He was to make absolutely sure that the door was locked on Evans after McLeary had left the cell. At 11:25 a.m., what happened? The governor heard the final exchanges. He heard the door clang, C-L-A-N-G, clang, for the last time. The examination was over. Stephens walked beside McLeary to the main gates. His long black overcoat encouraged the illusion, I-L-L-U-S-I-O-N, illusion that he had suddenly grown slimmer. His physical appearance was slimmer than he was during the examination. S-L-I-M-M-E-R, slimmer. His long black overcoat encouraged the illusion, I-L-L-U-S-I-O-N, illusion that he had suddenly grown slimmer. Then what happened? Stephens felt pleased that the governor had asked him and not Jackson, to see McLeary off the premises, Premisses, premises, and the morning had gone pretty. And the morning had gone pretty well, Pretty, pretty well. He re-entered Deaving and opened the peephole of Yvonne's cell. He saw a man sprawled, SPRAWLED, sprawled in Yvonne's chair. Sprawled means he was bending on the chair. The front of his closely cropped, 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 irregularly tufted hair was covered with red blood. Which had dripping, drop by drop. Dripped, bloods, drops of blood was just coming from somewhere, so which had dripped already through the small black beard. It was now spreading over the white clerical collar. From here it was coming here and drawn into the black clerical front. It was getting stained with blood. I am repeating this stanza. Stephens felt pleased that the governor had asked him, not Jackson. Stephens was very happy that governor had deep faith in him, so he had asked to serve. He had asked to do something for him, and he was very glad to get the order by the governor, because governor had not given that order to Jackson. To see McLeary off the premises, to see him off outside the gate. And the morning had gone pretty well. Everything was all right in the morning. He re-entered Deaving and opened the peephole of Yvonne's cell. He was a man sprawled, SPRAWLED, sprawled in Yvonne's chair. He saw a man sprawled in Yvonne's chair. There was something that attracted him towards that chair. What was that? The front of his closely cropped, cropped, irregularly tufted hair was covered with red blood, which had dripped already through the small black beard. It was now spreading over the white clerical collar and down into the black clerical front. From where had the blood come in the cell? It was in the... He had brought a rubber tube in which he had brought some blood, blood of pig inside. That is to be used to misguide the invigilator that he had been hurt, and that could help him to run away, to escape from the prison. It was already planned by Evans, who will come, when, at what time there will be a call, who will attend, what will be the message, and how will he escape from the prison. No doubt all precautions had been made, all care had been taken to stop Evans from escaping from the prison. Even then, he was successful to escape from the prison. Now, this was the first part of the story, the play. I have given you the summary. Go through the video once again. You will get the story very clear. Tomorrow I will provide the second part of the story. Okay, that will make everything clear. After that, whether it was Evans who went outside I once was sitting in the prison, uh, having been hurt by someone else. Who was the person who had got that blood shed? That suspense will be solved when I will provide you the next part of this play. Till then, stay at home, read the summary, the video very carefully, and we will meet again tomorrow. Thank you. Have a nice day.